Good evening. I promised that we would start on time, so it is 5 o'clock, and we will get you out of here within an hour. And so I want to welcome you to the inaugural University of Denver Juneteenth celebration, The Water That Connects. I am Andriette Jordan Fields, the Black Community Initiative Coordinator in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I'd like to thank our collaborators, first starting with the Black Community Advisory Board members, the Black Graduate Student Association, and the Black Alumni Association, and the Vicky Mayan Gallery, Lauren over there. Thank you. Lauren is responsible for our lovely refreshments. Special thanks to Franklin Johnson, who is also a member of the advisory board, and for all of the IT that he's done for us. And then I want to do a special thank you also to Bertrand. Bertrand, where are you? Bertrand, and stand up and please give him a hand. Bertrand is a member of the Black Graduate Student Association. He's also a member of the Black Advisory Board, and Bertrand is one of the co-leads for the Student Affairs section, and this is Bertrand's brainchild. He thought up the whole theme, and he just took it and ran with it, so I really want to thank Bertrand for all of his hard work. We are excited today that our chancellor a year ago had the foresight to give the University of Denver the day off for Juneteenth. We started celebrating and honoring Juneteenth 1 year ago. And so tomorrow, we will be off. And we are also happy that today we found out that the president has signed into law that now it is a federal holiday, so everyone will have Juneteenth off. I would like to, I'm sure you notice over here these lovely, handsome young men. I would like to acknowledge our lovely DU basketball team, young men. And we know the girls are on their way. And I also wanted to acknowledge our Vice Chancellor of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dr. Charles Whitt, Christopher Whitt. And we also have a Associate Vice Chancellor of Athletic Operations, Robert Willis. Where are you? And Coach, the coach who got them all here, Coach Wilburn. Thank you. So our co-hosts today are Erica Parkinson and Charles Blair. Erica is a current graduate student at the University of Denver seeking her master's in social work and specializes in health, wellness, and equity, and is the chair of the Personnel and Professional Development of the Black Graduate Student Association. Erica received her BF in modern dance from Texas Christian University before going on to a career as a professional dancer in Denver, Colorado, performing locally and touring nationally. Erica hopes to be a positive force for the change in the field of social work, focusing primarily on the cause of advocacy. In her spare time, Erica enjoys biking, reading, and spending quality time with her husband, Patrick, and their dog, Archie. Welcome, Erica. Our other co-host is Charles Blair. He is also a student in the Graduate School of Social Work, specializing in mental health and trauma. He is also the treasurer of the Black Graduate Student Association at DU, and prior to this, Charles worked for many years as a data security specialist. In his free time, Charles enjoys participating in cultural events that celebrate his African heritage. Please enjoy our event. Oh, and I'd like to acknowledge another one of our board members, all of the Black Community Advisory Board members. Will you please raise your hand so I can acknowledge you? So Dr. Whitt, Dr. Hannah, Dr. Willis, Antoinette Guilford, our community, Coach Woods, and Ron Rose. We thank you all for being here also.
Hello and welcome. If you are wanting to follow along, there are little cards on your seat. Just scan your QR code. That will have the program on it so you guys can follow along.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Water That Connects, libations to our ancestors and conversations for the future. My name is Charles,
And my name is Erica. And we'd like to welcome you to today's event. We would be remiss without acknowledging the various organizations around campus who helped make this event possible. If you're affiliated with the following organizations, please raise your hand and be recognized. Twice doesn't cover it.
Yes, so it was covered. The Black Community Advisory Board. The Black Graduate Students Association. And the Vicky Marin Gallery. We are here tonight to both celebrate the pivotal time in American history, one that marks the end of institutionalized chattel slavery, and to mourn the lives of the victims of this institution.
But before we celebrate the ending of one inhumane institution, we must acknowledge the inhuman circumstances of our nation's creation. Please join Juan, Chico, Dimas in acknowledging those who occupy the land on which we stand before us.
As a person of Indigenous heritage, I want to say thank you for coming to celebrate Juneteenth. It is not just a holiday, it marks change. Changes that will open many doors and hopefully benefit all. I ask you to join me this afternoon to call upon your elders, my elders, and the elders of the Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho tribes, both past and present, to be with us today for today's land acknowledgement. For a moment, I want to take you back to when this was Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho land. The Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho were the original stewards of this land. Our land and trees here at the University of Denver serve as witnesses to the individuals that were once here, the individuals I see today with us in the present, and the individuals that will come after us. We are deeply committed to acknowledging the Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho tribes and all the indigenous people that lived on this land which the University of Denver resides on. I urge each and every one of you to take time each day to reflect upon who resided here before. Whether you're walking on campus, enjoying a lunch here in the community commons, and making lifelong relationships here at the University of Denver. With that said, I ask you to recall the individuals that are connected to this present moment. It is my hope that as we move forward, that we will become one. Till we meet again.
Thank you. We will now hear from Yoal Ghebremeskel, who will share the historical context of the Juneteenth holiday.
Hello, everyone. Oh, this is loud. How's everybody doing? My name is Yoal Ghebremeskel. I'm a current member of the Black Alum Group here at the University of Denver. I graduated in 2007, and so haven't been on campus in a long while. It's good to see everybody here. My distant relative, thank you, Chico, for sharing. Theo Chapman is the current the current president of our Black Alum Group. He couldn't be here today with us, so I'm here in his place to share the historical context of Juneteenth. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Juneteenth. Upon his election, Abraham Lincoln had no intention to abolish slavery, simply to limit its expansion. However, Southerners knew that that one way or the other, this meant the same thing. Knowing that the institution that underpinned their entire way of life was at risk, they attempted to leave the country and take their land with them. Thought leaders of the time, like Frederick Douglass, envisioned the United States to be a country that would not brand the Declaration of Independence a lie. Now was the time to prove to the world that this grand experiment was ever underway at all. Douglass saw the Civil War as a national opportunity, one that, if ignored, would lead to the ruin of this nation. He knew that this nation needed to be reborn with liberty and equality at its cornerstone, and not slavery and class divisions. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued and the Civil War was officially an abolition war. Although abolition was the only thing that could save this country, many in the South, as well as in the Union, opposed this. As the war came to a close and Reconstruction began, Union soldiers, often freed themselves, began to travel throughout the South, spreading the word. On June 19, 1865, 2,000 Union slaves finally made it to Galveston Bay, Texas. This day has gone on to be known as Juneteenth, when the final slave received notification that the Emancipation Proclamation was in effect. With this began a new era in American history, one full of hope, but also anxiety. Many around the nation felt they had a problem, but instead of looking at themselves, they chose to fixate their gaze on the newly enfranchised Negro. Of this, Douglass asserted, "Men talk of the Negro problem. There is no Negro problem. The problem is whether American people have loyalty enough, honor enough, patriotism enough to live up to their own Constitution. We Negroes love our country. We fought for it. We ask only that we be treated as well as those who fought against. By this standard, we are still reconstructing what it means to be free in America." Thank you for giving the time and space to share this words today. Bertrand, thank you for organizing all of this. Happy to be here with all of you. And as a BA Black alumni member, happy to see everybody here today. And I hope and encourage all of you that once you graduate, you become activated and consistently give your voices to this university and for the future. Thank you.
With that perspective of the world, yes, more. With that perspective of the world that our ancestors lived in, let's spend some time thinking about our individual ancestors and how they impact our lives today. Helping us do that, Tamisha Macklin will be performing her poem, We Must Remember Our Ancestors.
Good evening, everyone. Super nervous, first time doing anything like this, so thank you all for your time today. This is fresh off the press, so I originally wrote part of this poem for Black History Month in 2019, but have since then added to it, so here we go. Slavery was a historical form of inequality. Humans viewed as property, sold into slavery for what seemed like eternity. Families torn apart, bodies beaten and bloodied. My people enslaved, many sent to early graves. And the founders of this country thought this was okay? Must we never forget the sacrifices of our ancestors, the blood, sweat, and tears so that we can have better years? Unimaginable pain and suffering, praying for the day to finally be free. Must we never forget, because it was not that long ago, hierarchical divisions of a human stratification system, experiences of hardships and misery, the people oppressed holding on to the hope of a new day. Must we never forget the sacrifices of our ancestors who built this country? Know and understand, we as a community have unlimited opportunities to achieve greatness. But first, we have to let go of the slave syndrome mentality. There needs to be more accountability. Reparations should be given for the tragedies of separation, murder, destruction, segregation, racism, and hate. We must remember our ancestors who went through pure torture, attempting to find a glimpse of compassion and equality. From the depths of the rivers that led them on their journey to freedom, following the North Star, striving for a fresh start. Sadly, many did not make it. It was the bounties on their heads and the atrocities that were conducted. We must remember our ancestors and the things that they have passed on to us. We have to find our resilience. We must remember our ancestors, their stories. We cannot let the colonizers erase the history that still affects us today because they are too ashamed and embarrassed and don't want to feel bad. When we continue to be sad and reminisce on what we could have had, if we were given the same opportunity, if we were treated like we were humans in the first place. It's 2021, and we still have to continue to advocate for our rights. I'm tired of watching my people die in the public eye. Give us a break and stop living a lie. We must remember our ancestors, no matter what. Do not let them take away our strength. We must remember the reason why we all gathered together to celebrate Juneteenth, because our people were not officially free until 1865. Until we meet again, we must come together to advocate for what's right. Never give up and keep fighting the good fight. We seek love, peace, and unity. Must we never forget our ancestors. Thank you.
Water is the element most inextricable from the African experience in America, with expressions such as being sold up the river and titles such as the transatlantic slave trade. The element was often described the conditions of their captivity.
At the same time, water often symbolized freedom itself. Bodies of water often marked final borders, separating them from freedom.
Like other elements, water neither helps nor hinders, nor does it live or die.
As transient as water is immortal. What better element to use to honor our ancestors?
Water cycles through our planet constantly, bounding towards freedom, but often is forced into captivity. Throughout the Black experience, we have used water to symbolize our emotions and to represent something greater than us that we can never control.
The deep connection between Black experience and water is illustrated beautifully and simply in Langston Hughes's "The Negro Speaks of Rivers." Listen to J.C. Futrell's recitation of the classic poem and draw your own connections to the water that defines your story and your background.
Can you hear me out there? Oh, that means you can't. Can you hear me out there? I don't think y'all know why we're here. We are here for a celebration. We got a new federal holiday, and y'all acting like someone took one away from y'all. Can we make some noise for that? We get another day off. That's all right. Let's just hope it doesn't always fall on a Saturday. That kind of feels it's kind of lame. It's like you give us February for Black History Month and give us another holiday on Saturday. That's all right, though. We're going to make it work. I love that this theme is based around water for us. I have a new baby girl. She's 1.5 years old. Yeah, you can make noise for more Black babies in the world. Yeah. And my wife and I, after long conversation, decided to name her River Jordan. Our connection to water is strong. She is our way home. Langston Hughes wrote The Negro Speaks of River back in 1920. It was first published in 1921. He did it right out of high school. He had a relationship with his father, but his father didn't live near him. His father lived in Mexico. And so right after high school, he decided to go travel, to go see his father. And he had traveled by train through the States. And you can only imagine what that's like for a young man of color back in 1920. And as he was on a train going through St. Louis and traveling over the mighty Mississippi, he realized that in his pocket he had one of those letters that his father had written him. And so he pulled out that letter, he started to read it, and then he looked upon the mighty Mississippi, and then he flipped that letter over and started to write this poem. Bring that up a little bit. If y'all feel the vibe, you can snap, you can nod your head. What's the hashtag for today? What are we doing for today? I know y'all out there in social media. What we doing? Water that connects. Water that connects. Water that connects. The Negro speaks of rivers. I have known rivers as ancient as the world, older than the flow of human blood through human veins. My soul has grown deep like those rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when the dawns were young. I built my hut by the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing from the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans and saw the muddy bosom turn golden in its sunset. I have known rivers, ancient and dusky rivers, and my soul has grown deep like those rivers. Langston Hughes, published 1921. Happy Juneteenth.
Rhythm African Drumming is a Colorado-based group that specializes in traditional West African drumming and dance. Let's join them in celebration and welcome them to DU. Thank you, thank you. When our West African ancestors came to America, they may have been familiar with music like what we just heard, but then they were exposed to Western culture and the many and varied cultures of their peers. From this forced melding of culture, like many things, the Negro spiritual was born.
The American song form, written by slaves, serve a variety of functions and drew from a variety of topics. Negro spirituals often serve as a commentary on the world around their creators, drawing metaphors from familiar Bible passages and nature.
The genius of the Negro spiritual lies with the simple song structures filled to the brim with deep metaphors and the meanings indicative of thoughtful observation of the world and a careful understanding of its context. This is evidenced by one of the most popular spirituals, Deep River.
One of the most intellectual of the spirituals, Deep River draws masterful connections between life and a body of water, the river. With its use of Christian imagery, Deep River reminds us of our lives are constantly flowing onward, constantly changing, and always picking up something from each experience.
I ask you to consider how it must have felt to long for a place far away, something always hoped for but never expected. Watch as Deborah Anderson illustrates this masterful expression of hope for the presumed hopeless. Let's welcome her to the stage for the performance of Deep River.
Deep
Excellent. At this point in the program, it is impossible not to acknowledge the relativity of the experiences of our ancestors to today's experiences. It is always astounding to look back on history and remark on how much has changed, and to marvel at how much simply hasn't.
While you're listening to Tamisha Macklin speak up, remember that we are celebrating the victory of a movement. The abolition of chattel slavery was the result of that abolition movement.
This was the result of efforts of many people who spoke up and expressed their opposition to a system. Remember that for any system to change, we have to speak up.
All right, round two, y'all. So I wrote this last summer. Just kind of poured my heart into it with everything that was happening with Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Elijah McClain, many other lives that have been lost. And so there's a little bit of anger and emotion in this one. But there's some hope as well. Here we go. I am disgusted by all of the hate that I see on display each and every day. There's another story of a new tragic case. Unarmed person of color murdered. Why? The excuses. He looked suspicious. I was afraid for my life. Yeah, right. Why is it okay to live in a place where you can be murdered because of your race? I am hurt by the thought of how I would feel if it were my own son. I would lose my mind. Answers we seek to find. Let's bring the darkness to light and expose the cowards who hide behind a gun because they are too lazy to run. The idea of peace for Black people in America is white privilege. You see, I got white people telling me that I need to get over my history of slavery because it was so long ago. But we still have these old policies that continue the oppression with the internalized trauma and slave mentality. I see a change within the community, and people are ready to listen, to understand my realities. It gives me hope to see the humanity, the movement in the making, no time for procrastinating. Tell them my Blackness is beautiful. Tell them I have a strong heart to advocate for what is right. Tell them what they do in the dark will soon come to light. Tell them that racism and hate is wrong and has been happening for far too long. Speak of the realities of the injustices for people of color. Speak of the many innocent lives lost due to senseless murders. Speak of the outrage against racism and hate. Speak of the day we all unified together to set things straight. Tell them we don't care if you're tired of all the protesting. Tell them this is for the safety of little Black and brown boys and girls. Speak of the pain and heartache. Speak of the communities that are just fed up. Speak of the need to create new policies. Speak of the hope for us to begin to cope, heal, and grow. Tell those racist cops they will reap what they sow. This is for all the beautiful queens. This is for all the handsome kings. This is for all the amazing little children. This is for all the mothers with a broken heart. This is for the fathers that are grieving the loss of their loved ones. For all of the grandparents that have to put their children and grandchildren to rest. This is for my community, for the ones who are lost, for the ones that need some guidance, for the ones ready to listen, for the ones who are ready for change. Speak up like you mean it. Speak up like you believe it. Speak up like there's a sense of urgency. Speak up like we're living in a state of emergency. Like we are tired of our voices being silenced. Like we are tired of being ignored. It's time for the world to finally listen. Shake the dust because in God we trust. We seek justice and demand change.
I didn't want to interrupt. Thank you, Tamisha. We would be remiss if we conducted this program and did not discuss the effects that abolition had on this nation.
While this was an improvement, there was no illusion that the emergent prison system would serve in place of the fallen slavery industrial complex.
As Jim Crow began to take hold of the South, it came into focus how the new Black experience would be shaped.
Helping us to explore what that looks like, J.C. Futrell will be performing his original poem, Ring.
Black folks, be unapologetically black. Black folks, be unapologetically black. White folks, let black folks be unapologetically black. White advocates, let black folks be unapologetically black. Be you. Be us. Be what we have been. Be a voice. Be a rhythm. Be a poem. Be a ball player. Y'all better jump. Y'all better. I'm so serious. Y'all think I'll play it. I wrote this piece. I was asked to spit this piece at the 40-year anniversary of the Black Panther Party in Harlem, New York. And it's a piece that I get asked to read a lot. And it affects me every time. I'm honored to be able to come here and do this today. Thank you to DU and everybody else. And can we have a round of applause for our hosts and for the space to be able to share today? It was a time not too long ago in this nation's history where we couldn't have a room with these kind of faces sitting in it together. I'm gonna tell y'all like this, some of y'all in this room might even remember a day when that wasn't possible. We are 2 generations removed from the fields, tenders of the earth, world's gardeners, nation builders, us. I am the anthem to a country without honor. I'm a social activist whose speech is only free after 9 p.m. with weekend minutes. Y'all can hit that beat. I am the diabrand version of a revolutionary. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring in the stem of every crack pipe. Let the blue smoke lift until it sets off the fire alarms. In heaven, let freedom ring. For the 100,000 souls trafficked into America every year, 80% of which are women, slavery still exists. Let freedom ring. I am a failed suicide attempt. I am the scar as a constant reminder. Let freedom ring in the canals of the lower Ninth Ward. New Orleans, where the only debris left are the living and breathing people. Let freedom ring for Nicholas Hayward, Amadou Diallo, Paul Childs, George Floyd, Elijah McClain, and any other life wrongfully taken by those sworn to protect us. Let freedom ring, because I am the last tear that Mandela shed in captivity. I am the only bullet Fred Hampton fired in defense of his home. I am Joe Lewis's left cross that crippled Nazi Germany. And I am Jesse Owens' running shoes. I am the first star that Mae Jemison wished upon. I would rather drown my children than allow them to be born into a life of servitude, because I am the color God painted the universe with. I am God's grief. I make raindrops feel like falling bricks. I am LAPD's red bullseye and the malnourished mouth that inspired the free breakfast program. I am a bomb in a Baptist church. I am the struggle we. Let freedom ring in the brothels of Thailand. the world capital of child prostitution, where American businessmen write off their crimes on their tax returns because there is no more plantation and old tool shed. Let freedom ring in Fallujah, where Shiite Muslims would rather set their flesh on fire rather than live under Western rule. In the canisters, Haitians and Cubans drift in to find their freedom down the barrel of a gun in Darfur, Sudan, in the hands of an 8-year-old soldier in Uganda. Let freedom ring. Because I am all of the things the black community just refuses to talk about anymore. I'm back to Africa. I'm inequality. I'm AIDS prevention, incest, and hope. I am your spook, your coon, and your BET. Uncle Tom. I'm 63 cents on the dollar compared to the average wages white men make. I feel more comfortable in calling you my, rather than calling you my brother. Because somewhere along the line, I bought into the idea that the thing that we share the most in common is our indignity, but it's not. So let freedom ring! Let freedom ring! Let freedom ring! Until it makes a sound we all can actually recognize. Thank you.
Thank you very much, JC. Oops. Hold, please. Now, thank you very much, JC. While a victory for sure, Juneteenth did not mark the end of systemic racism and unpaid labor. It was simply a moment of transportation in America. George Gershwin, while not African American, was a composer who used his art to depict the effects of oppression in the Jim Crow South.
On this summer day, listen to Deborah Anderson's performance and try to imagine how it must have felt to have been freed. One hot Texas day. What it must have felt like.
Thank you very much. In African spirituality, the water libation ceremony has been used to honor ancestors and supply them with an essential element. The ritual shows our ancestors that we, the living, remember them and wish them well.
As we transition into this ritual, remember your ancestors, not just those who were slaves, but all of those who came before and after. If you know their names, say their names.
They don't have to be just your family members. They can be friends, loved ones. If you know their names, say their name and wish them well. Before we start the ritual, some quick closing remarks from the organizer, Bertrand Evans-Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I'm really excited about this, and I'm really glad that we were really able to pull it together. And just one more time, I want to say thank you to Dr. Jordan Fields, to Lauren, and a lot of people are saying, like, I did all these things, but really all I did was ask you guys to show up. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you to all the performers, and thank you to my wife, Shanice. She's incredible. And I just wanted to tell you guys a few stories really quick. The first one is a huge reason why I'm here, why I'm doing this, why I'm with the Black Community Advisory Board, is because a few weekends ago, someone I was working with told me every time I go to DU, the police get called. And that's not something I want my alma mater to be known for. And that's something that I think is important. Decide for yourself what you want your community to be like and work for that. Don't just go anywhere because someone told you. Do what you think is the right thing to do. And sort of on that vein, I really wanted to point out that a lot of times slavery is misconstrued as a situation where people aren't paid, but I really want to remind everyone that slavery is a condition of unfreedom, not unpayment. And it's important for you to know what freedom feels like to you and when it's being taken away. And so just to close off, I want to read a story from my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Columbus Williams, who was born a slave and was freed around the age of 18. He says, "I was not in the Army in the war. I was right down here in Union County, Georgia. Then I don't know just when they freed me, but it was after the war was over. The old white man called us up to the house and told us now we was free, and as he was, that if we wanted to stay with him, it was all right. If we didn't and wanted to go away anywheres, we could have the privilege to do it." And it was that simple. It happened all across the South, and that's just what happened. And I really just want to encourage you guys to look into your own history and find out, because it's not a monolith. When I found my grandfather's slave narrative, I was surprised because he said he always voted. He never had any problems voting. And that's something you don't hear about. That's something you don't know. And so as we do this water libation ceremony, I really want you guys, like we said earlier, to just think about the people who came before you, and just how all of their contributions led to us being here in this moment. So thank you for coming, and I really hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Hello, everyone. As was said earlier, I'm Christopher Whitt. I'm the new Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at DU. And my great colleague, Andriette, I want to thank her for putting this together, and she compelled me to come up here. As you can see, before this was planned, I had planned for today to be a day off, rolling into the Juneteenth weekend, so I'm chilling with my Black and Exhausted t-shirt. I got the family. I had some friends in from Sweden, and we're here enjoying this expression of our culture, this expression of our desire to never forget where we came from, but to also remember that we have so much further to go. I just appreciate all of the effort that was put into this, and know that we will continue to build upon this, to build upon some of the things that have already been going on here at DU, to continue to make this a place that is a destination of choice, a place where people feel they can be their full and authentic selves and thrive, not just survive as some version of themselves. And I would just say, whenever I have a little time off, a lot of times I call that my Black time. That's me time, Black time. So I'm back at work, but it doesn't feel like work because I'm off and I have some Black time. And for all of our non-Black family and friends who are here, welcome to Black time. Thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for giving me a moment just to say thank y'all and to say let's keep everything going.
All right. So this is going to be my very second time doing this. So pardon the break in between. A lot of pressure. So libation in Africa, where I grew up, is a way we communicate with our ancestors. I grew up in Ghana. When I was born, we used that water to show a baby the difference. And this libation that we use, the energy, the history, the culture behind this is very important, because we being here, our ancestors, today we are remembering this moment. It's very important to connect with our ancestors. It's very important to bring their presence into this place. And it's very important to carry that same energy when we go out of here. So this libation moment it's a very personal experience, because I just, how our ancestors, because I was born in Ghana, and a lot of us, we have a lot of African history. A lot of us, we came from different backgrounds, but our history with the way this water works is interesting. So, water, we call on our ancestors, and we call on their presence with us today. We call on our ancestors to lead us when we are out of here. We call on them to drink with us. We call on our ancestors to strengthen us, to remember us whenever we go through any challenging times. Water is a way we celebrate everything in our life. Our ancestors, they trust us. They strengthen us. They empower us. They inspire us. They give us the power that we need to keep moving forward. To all of our ancestors from the South, we say drink with us. From the West, drink with us. From the North, drink with us. And from all over, continue to drink with us. The power of this water, the power of this libation, is for all of us to remember that water was a process we transitioned here. Water, the way water works, allows us to know that we can be fluid through any situation, no matter where we came from. This water should serve as a remembrance that we can make it through the strength of our ancestors. And finally, we are fully liberated from every struggle, no matter what we experience on a daily basis. The strength, the spirit, the energy, the power, the spirit of our ancestors from the water world, from the fire world, from the ground world, from any world at all. That spirit is with us. When we leave here, when we are in our personal homes, when we are doing anything, we need to remember we are kings and queens. Our ancestors strengthens us. Our ancestors, their spirit is with us. No matter what we go through, we shouldn't be afraid. We shouldn't be timid. See this music that we play? That is how we call our ancestors. And when we include this water, we are so powerful. So I hope we use this moment to remember the power, the strength, the inspiration, and the spirit of our ancestors every day. Drink with us, strengthen us, inspire us, motivate us, and give us everything that we need to water our lives on the daily. Thank you.
If you're having a good time, and you want to keep the vibe going all weekend, make sure you take these business cards with you. On the back, there's a QR code. It has the program. It has everyone's bio. For all the people,
You can do this one.
for everyone on Zoom, go ahead and scan that QR code. There's a Spotify playlist here. It was playing out there. It was playing here at the beginning. Please feel free. But this concludes our program. Thank you all for coming, and hopefully I see you this whole weekend.